deal with pediatrics as well as like adult. Like I have no problem with adults. The kids hit me hard. And about a year later, maybe even less, maybe 6 to 8 months later, 2019, fall time, we went on an auto versus pet, car versus human being. And it was a 14-year-old kid, which was the same age as my son at the time, my oldest son. And he got hit at 40 miles an hour by a drunk driver. And I'll never forget the moment. And I was on when we pulled up, I was on this side of the rig, and that's where the child was, and he was pretty much lifeless in the police officer's arms, just mangled. And when I stepped off the rig and I saw that, all I saw was my own boy. And I fucking froze. And I could feel like how like the shame right now, that shame comes up, right? Of how I felt, because I mean, I was a JTAC. I was calling in fire. I was able to work under very, very difficult, stressful situations. And I'm not even the guy touching the patient this night. Thank God. Okay, I'm on the radio, right? I have to call it into base hospital to let them know that we have a very critical patient, and we're scooping. We're basically scooping this kid up. We're getting him on the gurney, and we're going straight to the hospital because he's losing his life. And I could barely make the radio call. And after that call, of course the captain asked everyone, "Hey, it was a really tough call. Is everyone okay?" And what did I do? I said, "Yes, I'm okay." Just buried it. And that's how I treated every trauma that I dealt with leading up to that moment. I fucking put it in my rucksack and I carried it with me. But now that call, right, overloaded my ruck, and I couldn't get up anymore. And I end up that anxiousness, that depression, right? I can't even really be a paramedic anymore. This is the story I'm telling myself. And I can't even make a fucking radio call. And I didn't, I all that energy, all that negative energy of the self-doubt and the anxiousness, I didn't want to come to work. I was coming to work, but I didn't want to. And I remember stepping off the rig one night, and I had hurt my back. And I was like, a back injury. Any other day, I probably would have been like 800 milligrams of Motrin. I could deal with broken ribs going through Hell Week. I could surely deal with a hurt back. And but I was like, you know what? I need time. I need time to just step away from this. My back is hurt. I'm gonna get on physical therapy. I'm gonna step away. And I was off for a month and a half for a back injury. And I mean, it was probably the worst and the best thing that could happen to me, right? Because now I'm injured, so I'm in bed. I'm on high-dose steroids. I'm on whatever meds they gave me to relieve the pain. And now I'm having prolific panic attacks. I couldn't leave the house. I'd go to the grocery store and I would lose my shit. And this was going on for, I had 12 of these, just prolific, just out of this world. And I remember going on panic attack calls. For whatever reason, the city I lived in, there was a lot of people with panic attacks. And I never could understand. I was like, why is this person catatonic? Until I was there myself. Like I was, my supercomputer was shutting down and it couldn't do it anymore. And that ended up getting to a point where quite frankly, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I can't do this. And I remember very distinctly, right, being in my room and I didn't have access to I had a SIG in the room, but God was on my side, and I couldn't get my safe open. It was like one of the thumbprint, right? And I'm trying to get the thing open, and my wife's in the house. I'm making, it's beeping, and I'm just like, and I'm like, it's gonna happen, right? And I think when we set our mind to something, we set our mind. I couldn't get it open, so I had a bottle of Xanax. I was like, okay, I can't do this. And then I'm looking at the bottle, and I'm now afraid that I'm gonna fail at fucking killing myself with this bottle of Xanax. Swallowing enough pills just not to wake up. And I remember, the spirit of my, like my buddy who took his life probably 2.5 years before that. I remember him almost sitting next to me and just hearing his voice saying, "Do you get it now?" And he saved my life. Like he's like, his energy and his spirit like saved me, because I was like, I get it. Like, and what are you going to do about it? And so instead of taking my own life, I went the other direction. I think we have choice, right? We could take our own life, or we can say, hey, listen, it's not me, right? That's not my true self that's broken. It's everything that had got me to this point, right? The story that I'm telling myself, which is all false. And I could put language to it, but I couldn't really put language to it at that time. But I knew I had to look the other direction. And I had one of my captains. He's now a captain. I think he was. I don't know if he was a captain at the time. Anyway, he was a really close advocate of mine. He, for whatever reason, he knew he had to come see me at the house. It was and this is the same thing, same time, and so he recommended that I go to this suicide prevention program called Save a Warrior, and so I got a seat pretty fast into that program, and at the time it was 4 days, but now it's 3 days. And I say I owe my ability to save my own life to those 3 days that I sat in the seat and leaned into what they had to say, because I was done suffering. I was done suffering.
Was that like a classroom setting? Was that like one-on-one?
Yeah, it's a classroom, it's group
setting.
There was 12 of us, I think.
Did you find that having other people there was like more powerful, or
Yeah.
Because that seems like the terrifying part.
Right, but and I think the hardest thing for us to do is to express any type of vulnerability towards stuff that the shame and the shit that we had to go through to get into the seat. I say that and I'm not beating my parents up. I mean, I've done podcasts where I've kind of gone through what it is I went through. I don't think it's relevant. We all go through something traumatic in some kind of capacity. There's physical, emotional, sexual abuse, are the three big ones. Neglect, abandonment, all these things. And I think that I know that my parents did the best they could with what they had, because I'm sure that whatever they went through was far worse than what I went through, and they did the best they could, in this, and so I've been able to forgive that, and that was part of the Save a Warrior process, is getting complete with the source of your trauma, like really getting complete, and they do such a good job with that. They have this. They call it canonical rigor, right? It's a novelty, right? They put together this almost movie, like you step into this container and you go through this process, and I think it's the best show on earth. When I left there, I had a powerful spiritual movement in my life just in that 3 days. And I'm not religious. This is not about religion to me, right? It was the mind, body, spirit, right? I lost my fucking mind, right? My body is pretty much broken, and I never really had a connection with spirit, part of who I am. And so that right, having a very high understanding of why I was broken in the first place set me on this path of like, oh my gosh, like I get it. Light bulbs were going off.